Helping a parent or loved one move to a senior living facility can be an act of kindness, but some nursing homes are repaying that kindness by suing family members and even friends to pay the patient's bills. Hi, I'm Jeff Hoyt, editor-in-chief of SeniorLiving.Org. We've seen reports of nursing homes actually suing family members and even friends who never intended to pay the bills of a senior going into a nursing home. As executive director of the Helps nonprofit law firm, Eric Olsen has counseled seniors struggling with debt along with their families. In this video, the attorney explains the laws that protect people from having to pay others' nursing home bills, how you can prevent this from happening to you, what contract language people should be on the lookout for, what contract language you should consider adding, when you should consult an attorney, and how Eric's law firm could help you at no charge. Because Eric is in Oregon and I'm in California, we'll conduct the interview via Zoom. Hey, it's Jeff Hoyt. Once again, I have the pleasure of speaking with Eric Olsen. Eric's an attorney, and he's the founder and executive director of the Helps nonprofit law firm that helps seniors and others who are struggling with debt. Welcome, Eric.
Good to be here with you, Jeff.
Well, whenever you're here with me, I learn something, so I'm putting on my thinking cap, and I want to learn today about people who are putting loved ones into assisted living, other kind of senior living situations like nursing homes. Because I've read reports that, friends and family actually being sued over someone being, a bill from a nursing home. So is it legal for a nursing home to require a guarantee for paying a bill?
No, it is not legal. Okay. So it used to be okay, but there's federal regulations put in place since, I think it's October of 2016, that prohibits nursing homes from requiring or even requesting a third-party guarantee for payment. They just cannot do it under the law. They're not supposed to ask a family member if they want to be a responsible party. But that was what, 5-6 years ago, whatever. And so there's probably still some agreements out there that under the old law that might say in fine print that the child, whoever is putting the parent into the nursing home, agrees to be responsible, or they're co-signing personally for the bill, which under the law, they don't have to do. And the nursing home can't require it or ask them to do it.
So is there certain language if someone is taking a family member or even a friend to a nursing home? Is there certain language they should look for that could alert them that could be a potential problem down the road?
Well, sure. A lot of times when we sign stuff, you and I both know this, we don't read it, right? Sometimes.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're going to want to read that, okay, if you're putting a parent into a nursing home. And you want to be on alert, sort of language that says that you're going to be responsible for the bill if the parent can't pay it. Now, some contracts might say that the child agrees to be, quote, the responsible party. So that's kind of like, what does a responsible party mean? It could be responsible for what? Making sure that dad is taken care of, or that you can help get him on Medicaid, or that you're going to make sure that you're using dad's assets to pay for the nursing home bill. But, does it mean that you're going to be responsible financially? So the term can be a little bit confusing and not always clear. Well, I'll explain. So if you're a responsible party and dad runs out of funds, or mom does, you may have to assist the nursing home in applying for Medicaid, which is a government program that will pay for the nursing home assistance. And you're going to want to be involved in that. So, and to that extent, you want to be responsible. If you don't, the nursing home could say that you might be a breach of contract. The other thing is, you want to be responsible in the sense that you're using the parent's funds to pay the resident's bill. You're not spending the money on yourself. And if you do that and spend mom and dad's money and don't use it to pay for mom and dad's care, yeah, the nursing home could come after you and say, you breached the contract, you weren't responsible. I don't think there's a problem with that. I haven't seen it with our clients, but you want to make sure that you understand if there's mom and dad has money and you're paying for their nursing home care, you're responsible to use that money to pay for mom and dad's care.
If you're paying with their money, you're paying the bills, you mean?
With their money, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, like when I get medical treatment, I often sign something that says, hey, if your insurance doesn't pay, you're the responsible party. You have to pay the bill. And I get that, but luckily my insurance tends to take care of those things. Here, when they say responsible party, you just want to make sure it means you're responsible for A, making sure the parents' assets are used to pay this off, not sitting there going, oh, I'm not going to mail them a check. And B, that you're responsible that if more paperwork needs to be done, for example, you mentioned Medicaid, getting on a government program, that you'll facilitate that, as
Yeah,
opposed to you're responsible for payment if the senior can't pay.
exactly. And if you read the form and you were a little confused about it or concerned, I mean, there probably could be a place that you could put on there, uh, clarify that language. Now, and I don't think the nursing home is going to object to that as long as you put down there that I'm not personally responsible for using my funds to pay this bill, but I'm going to cooperate in helping you see that my dad gets on Medicaid or something like that. You could do that. Nursing
So,
homes are always looking for patients, especially if patients are self-pay patients. Okay. If mom and dad have money. Now, that's important. So if mom and dad have money to pay for the care, they're going to want you because they can they make more money off a self-paying patient than they do off a Medicaid patient.
right. So when you talk about formulating language to go into a contract, it sounds like we're getting into your line of work as an attorney. Is it worthwhile, since we were talking earlier, no one really reads the whole contract? Is it worthwhile to have an attorney look it over to make sure that the phrase responsible party isn't going to be used against you and they're going to hit you up for tens of thousands of dollars in bills?
Might be kind of a cheap shot for me to say, yeah, you got to hire an attorney to do this, but a lot of kids can't afford that. Maybe. I don't think it's exactly rocket science to be able to read the language and be able to determine and put a phrase in there. I am not personally responsible for paying debt from my own funds for my parent, something like that. You could put that in there and it'd be, or you can ask them too, say, you understand that I'm not, I want to make clear with you that I'm not responsible for myself for paying for mom and dad when they run out of money. And as long as you got your wife there or someone there with you, they could be a witness of that conversation. Yeah, if you want to hire an attorney, that's great to review it. But I don't think it's absolutely mandatory as long as you're careful to read the language.
Right. So read it. If you have a witness there, you can say, hey, I just want to be clear, I'm not on the hook for this if somehow the bills aren't paid and you have a witness there, great. Or put it, or put in language that says, I am not financially responsible for this payment. And then worst case scenario, if you really want to sleep well at night, you could have an attorney look it over to make sure you're not on the hook for it.
Yeah, but if you put one of those phrases like we just talked about there, they're going to see that, and they're going to understand that, hey, this guy knows that he's not responsible, and we cannot try to bill him for it. Now, I imagine that the vast majority of nursing homes are legitimate. They know the federal rule that's been in effect now for what 7 years or so, 6 or 7 years, that they can't hold the kid responsible, the child responsible for the parent's bill. They can't even ask him to be responsible for it.
What if I have power of attorney over a parent and I bring that parent to a senior living facility?
It's legal for the child in his role as power of attorney to sign for the nursing care home for the parent on their behalf, that they're going to use the parent's funds. Just because they sign that agreement on behalf of their parent doesn't make them personally responsible. They would want to sign it with my name, like if I'd sign it, Eric Olsen, power of attorney for Pearl Marie Olsen, my mother's name, if she was alive. Okay. Or, you'd sign power of attorney for. So it's really clear that the kid isn't signing on it, but they're signing as power of attorney on behalf of their parents.
And in which case, you're still not responsible to use your own funds.
Right.
So what if, you talked about how nursing homes appreciate someone who can pay their own way. If you bring in someone who has sketchy financial situation, who's not that well off, and they get rejected because they don't think they can pay the bill, um, can you then like offer to pay yourself?
Yeah, you can. You bet. You can offer to pay for it. Uh, but the offer has to come from you. Um, not, they're not supposed to require that as a condition of your accepting your parent. It has to be truly voluntary.
But they can say, no, we can't do it based on their finances. Then you say, well, what if I agree to pay? So it can be a condition for their acceptance.
You can agree to pay it. But what this law goes, this federal regulation is what it is. What it was designed to do is that to tamp down nursing homes trying to intimidate kids into becoming financially responsible for a parent's bill.
The thing about these laws is they're only good if people know about them and know that they can apply them, that they help. So you mentioned Medicaid before. What happens when a parent can't afford the cost of nursing care and someone isn't available to step in and guarantee the payments?
There's Medicare, that you get when you're 65, and then there's Medicaid. So Medicare is available to seniors, okay, but Medicaid is if you're poor and you can't afford, certain medical treatment or care in a nursing home, then Medicaid can step in and pay. And it's a federal program funded by the federal government, but administered by the state. And generally, there's a limit on the amount of assets you can have to be on Medicaid. So if mom or dad were to go into a nursing home, they might have to spend down their personal assets, typically to less than $2,000, and then to qualify to get on Medicaid. So if mom and dad had, let's say, $100,000 available to pay for their care, they would pay that $100,000. When it's down below 2,000, then there'd be a transition from Medicare into Medicaid. Now, in most states, the first, I think, 100 days in a nursing home facility can be covered under Medicare. But after that, you either have to pay for it yourself or get on Medicaid.
So if mom goes into a home with some funds, $100,000, like you mentioned, and then the funds run out in a year or so, um, she can apply to Medicaid, but can they boot her if the bill isn't paid?
If the facility accepts any other Medicaid patient, they can't boot the person out. Okay, they can't ask them to leave. I can't imagine that they would never, turn a parent onto the street or anything like that. But if they don't accept any Medicaid patients at all, and you run out of money, then it's legal for them to say we can't accept you anymore, and they could try to transition the person over to another facility that does accept Medicaid patients. Now, why is that important to know? Well, because you can usually get a nicer facility if you can pay yourself and not just go in with Medicaid from the get-go. I mean, there's a difference in quality in facilities for mom and dad that could stay in. So if they've got money, they can get a nicer facility, and you might want to ask them, do you accept Medicaid patients at all? And if they say, no, we don't have any Medicaid patients here, then, you got to realize that if they run out of money, they could ask mom and dad to leave. But if they have other Medicaid patients and you run out of your own money, then they're required to transition them over to Medicaid, and they can't be asked to leave.
So it sounds like there's a chance that the money will run out. Then you want to make sure you put your parent into a home which does accept Medicaid, so they don't have to then move after the money runs out. They have to start over somewhere else, because that could be hard on a senior, I'd imagine.
Yeah, my wife was a hospice nurse for 20 years. Okay, so I used to drive her around Sunday nights. So she often talked to me about different nursing homes and standard of care. And there was a big difference between nursing homes. She was always telling me, this is not a nursing home I'd want our mom and dad to have to go to, or this person, this isn't near as good. Or we drive by a certain place and she'd say, boy, this is the best place in town. This is really a good place. So
Getting back to our original topic, what happens if a nursing home comes after you and says, hey, you got to pay this bill because no one else is paying it.
You don't have to pay it. That's where you can say, hey, listen, here's the agreement. I'm not responsible for it. Now, and I suppose you could get an attorney at some point, but we don't really see that happening. But once in a while, you'll read on the internet about something called filial laws. I don't know if you pronounce it right, but anyway, it's a law that says that kids can be responsible for parents' bills if they're unable to take care of themselves. Okay, and that used to be the case years ago, but Medicare and Medicaid have pretty much put those laws out of business. They may still be on the books in some states. And the law supposedly obligates children to provide necessities for a parent if they're indigent, but really not enforced. I think there's a case out of Pennsylvania from quite a few years ago, but that was extraordinary circumstance where the kid, had all this money and there, so we don't see filial laws enforced. They're not in favor.
So just to sum up, if you're the person bringing someone into a nursing home, your parent or just a friend, it's like, be careful what you sign, add language if you need to. If you're really worried, have an attorney look it over. But you want to protect yourself because you don't want someone coming back after you and saying, you're the responsible party, you're responsible for $6,000 a month or whatever the costs are.
You're right. If viewers are looking at this video and they don't know about helps and what we do to protect seniors that have financial problems, they might want to look at some of our other videos because this money that the parent has can be preserved to take care of their needs. Choose not to pay other debt and use this money to protect their parents, to provide to take care of their parents. That's not the topic, but they need to know these other things as well.
If somebody wanted to reach out to helps, had any questions about this, how would they reach out?
Yeah, we're a 501c charitable nonprofit law firm, and our phone number 855-435-7787. We're all over the internet. www.helps, HELPS is here. Helps stand for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors is here.org. We don't turn anyone away that needs the help we provide. And we're happy to answer questions. We talk with kids all the time about their parents and problems and what they can do.
Great. Really appreciate the help. Thanks for setting us straight on this topic.
Glad to do that, Jeff, every day.